Well, I'm here with Lor Xiong, Minnesota's 4th District, running for Congress. We will be talking about some topics ranging from economics to culture so that the people who are watching can know a little bit more about what we're doing here. We're in St. Paul, Minnesota, and I'll be talking with May here about her plan. So, May, will you tell us a little bit about who you are?
Sure. So I'm Lor Xiong running for U.S. Congress in the 4th District, which is Ramsey County and Washington County in Minnesota here. It is one of the largest Hmong community, and of course, in other Asian communities within St. Paul in the metro area. I was born in Ban Vinai, Thailand, in a refugee camp, and I lived there for 8 years before immigrating to America, specifically in Minnesota. So I pretty much grew up in America here.
Nice, great. Well, that's awesome. As you know, most people just care about money. So that's one of their top priorities. So I'm going to ask you a couple financial questions, fiscal questions first. The first one is on welfare reform. So as you know, a lot of there's an increased burden on the economy due to a lot of social programs and things like that, and entitlement programs. And if so, would you, if you see that, is there anything in the future that you would do to reform anything like that? Maybe any restrictions placed on things for fraud or anything? What's your plan for like the economic programs like that for the future?
Yeah. So I know that in Minnesota we have like one of the biggest fraud, like Feed the Children, one of those programs for supposedly to go to children and families and feeding them, and it's taking tax dollars away from Americans. As in some of the social programs, many people benefit from those social programs, but we have to really have accountability on what they are and who they're serving, and making sure that the people that they say they will serve will get the benefit from that.
Yeah, especially if a lot of people are staying home and they're able-bodied people, but they're either on drugs or using workman's comp or things like that.
Yeah, one of the things about America is that you can accomplish anything. You can do anything and have, if you're willing to go out there and work and work hard. And that's the beauty of what we have in this country. But it's hard to make a living if you're not willing to try.
Yeah. Thing about America is it's equal opportunity, but we're not guaranteed equal results.
Right.
So, yeah, okay, that's great. As it comes to fiscal responsibility, as you know, the government is spending way too much money and a lot of checks are getting signed. What steps would you take to ensure that there be some sort of accountability or some control on government spending?
Right.
At least for your area, but also as a nation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. One of the big issues that I would like to work on is definitely stop the spending in Washington, D.C. What they're doing is sending billions and billions of tax dollars overseas to protect other borders. Yet they're not willing to protect our borders. And that is one of the big issues that I have too, is that we have money and we can spend freely on other nations and other countries and other people, but we're not willing to invest into our people and our country. And these are tax dollars that hard-working Americans are paying to the government. And so we have to stop the spending. We have to stop printing money. Our economy, the reason for inflation is because they just kept on printing money. And that is the result of what's happening in our country.
Yeah. Right now we're just writing checks that we can't cash.
Right.
So, yeah. And as it comes to job creation, how do you plan? This goes a little bit back to the social programs. How would you transition people from programs like that into the workforce, just to boost, local economies and things like that? How would you support those people who have been out of the job for a while, whether it's honest or not, but just to get them back into the workforce and put them into a routine? Is there anything that you could promote for that?
Oh, definitely. I think that one of the biggest problems right now we have is that these failed leadership, the government, they're taxing people way too much. And a lot of times people bring in their checks, they can't even afford to pay for their mortgage or put food on the table. And so they rather, stay home or, go into these social programs to help them. So what we need to do is stop taxing people. We need to cut back on taxing people so that way they can bring their checks home, afford their rent or their mortgage, and then be able to feed their family.
Yeah, I know I work in California right now, and the income tax is something like 13.1%. But times during COVID and things like that, it was often you made more money by staying on programs like unemployment and things. But there's nothing that pays off more than a hard day's work,
Right.
and that translates into the future.
In the long run, you will come ahead if you work. However, the government has to stop taxing people.
Yeah, absolutely. So a little bit of couple cultural questions. According to a few sources, a transgender lawmaker in Minnesota, which is apparently the first, I think they're in the House, introduced a measure that would remove some language from the Human Rights Act in Minnesota, which currently declares people that are pedophiles, it's not included in a protected status based on sexual orientation, meaning a pedophile would be considered somebody in a non-protected class based on sexual orientation. But this particular individual, Li Feng, wanted to take that out and put a proposal onto the House floor. So let's just say something like that. If it came across your desk, what would you do? And do you think that something like this would promote uh, these types of behavior and things like that? And is there a pathway being created to really harm children and indoctrinate them in all sorts of other things?
Uh, I was a teacher for over 20 years in St. Paul Public Schools, and my my heart is near and dear to the children, and we have to do what we can to protect our kids. They are going to be our future leaders. We have to make sure that we're creating academic excellence in school, so that way they can read and write. Right now, they're failing. Our education is failing our students, and indoctrinating our kids. And this is something that we must, as a nation and as parents, we have to um, take reclaim the parental rights of the parents, so that way they can protect their children. And school they have to do what they can to protect the children too.
Yeah, that's so right. And oftentimes, education is an objective truth. Mathematics, there is always a correct answer most of the times, and but this subjective thinking can often be hijacked and turned into radicalism.
Right.
So, yeah. So immigration, based off immigration, you and I both know that you would not be here had it not been for an immigration system. A lot of the people that I care for deeply would also not be here just because of them coming from different countries, mainly the Hmong people. So when it comes to your views on immigration, do you have any plan to stop the open border if it would include a closing of the border? And if so, would you support something like limits on legal immigration? Is that something in the future, or what are your views on immigration?
Well, I love immigrants. I'm an immigrant myself, and this country would be where we are without immigrants. However, many of us, we came here legally, and there is a system that we have to follow. My biggest issue is the open border, and the illegals are coming at, and the problem is that we don't know who's coming through our border. We have a lot of criminals coming through our borders. We have a lot of tourists coming through our border. And we wouldn't be a nation if we do not have security at the border. And anyone who condones open border, they're condoning uh, women and children exploitation. They're condoning drugs coming into this country to kill Americans, and they're really condoning criminal activities down at the border, and that's something that we must stop. It is not the fact that we don't want immigrants coming in, but there is a way. There's a legal way that they have to come. I mean, there are many immigrants that are waiting to come to this country. We know that there's the war in Ukraine, and these are they're seeking refugees in America. There's war, endless war down in Myanmar or Burma,
Correct.
and these are immigrants that are in they're without homes. They're in refugee camps, and they need to seek refuge in America. So these are the type of immigrants that we want to help. We want to get them to this country the legal way. But when they're coming through the borders, they're coming in here. We don't know where they are. We don't know what's going to happen to them. And I think that we have to make sure that we secure our border and protect America.
Yeah, it's such a complex topic. There's so many things, drugs, like you said, the sex trafficking, but really even just people coming here who hate our country and have no skills that are translatable that could benefit Americans. But we're taking these people who are seeking asylum, setting them free into the interior of the United States, giving them a court date, hoping that they're going to come back. And and that's considered legal immigration. So yeah, like you said, there are some things that we can do to refine that, but a lot of the people we care about would not be here if it not been for America's core values of accepting people into the country. So yeah, it is so open ended, and
It is a very complex issue, but I believe that we have to. Bottom line is we have to secure our border.
Yeah.
And we have to be able to control and vet whoever's coming into this country.
yeah, and keep the people who are in charge accountable. Mayorkas, people in the top, like Joe Biden, needs to keep an eye on the people who are in charge of that and keep them accountable.
Yeah. See, there's another issue that I have with the open border is that the last few years, there's over 85,000 thousand children. And now I'm pretty sure there's a lot more. They've gone missing and they don't know what happened to these kids. And these are the type of issues that we have at down the border. And if they care about these people, they care about these illegal immigrants and say, well, we want to open the border for them, then why are these children gone missing? Why are the women and children down there being murdered and raped?
Yeah, that's so true. Wow. So you said you were an educator in the public school systems. What initiatives would you support to promote education, job training programs, whether it's trade schools, or help people to become more employable?
Well, education is very important for job wise, and it doesn't mean that you have to go to college or you have to get a degree or anything. Education is just really important for people to get, so that way they're not getting advantage of and they have a chance to get a better job. My parents, they can't read and write in English, but they have always promote education for us. They always say, whatever you do in life, you have to make sure that you can read and write and get an education. So that's always been is something that it was ingrained in me and on my siblings. And as a teacher, I always promote that too. And it doesn't have to be college. I believe in trade school. I believe in get a certification. There's many ways to get educated in a sense where you can find a job, but you have to put the effort in taking those training classes, right? Get that certification.
Yeah, that's so true. And I'm a trade school student, and right now I'm going to biblical college online at Moody Bible Institute. But oftentimes for me, if you have a job that is not, you don't need to be a doctor or a lawyer or something that you have to go to school for, school can also sometimes be a hindrance because you get out, you have a degree in underwater basket weaving and it's not translatable. And then the kids get out thinking they're going to have a $100,000 job. And that's a failure of our institutions and the people supporting them really lying to these kids. But schools are often great for how do you cultivate what you do in your leisure time? School is for education. We refine our thinking. But if we're being indoctrinated into these societies of the new Orwellian, like you have to use these buzzwords and things like that. How are we going to focus on education
Right.
when all that is happening at the same time?
It's very true. Education institute should strictly be teaching the kids to think freely, think logically, and not think emotionally, where they're going to act on their emotion at the spur of the moment. And that's where I think a lot of institutions right now are failing our kids, is not being able to teach them to think logically and to really have ways to solve an issue instead, throw a tantrum. That's what they're teaching our kids.
Yeah, it really is. Okay. Well, when it comes to cultural values, we can encourage the preservation of America, cultural values that emphasize personal responsibility, national pride, and support for our men and women in uniform, things that we've always stood for as a country, collectively, historically. Um, do you
Uh,
do you see a problem with the direction the country's going? Like with those values, do you think those are something that we still value as a country? National pride, which some claim to be a negative byproduct of nationalism rather than Christendom, which is focusing on Christ. But we'll get to beliefs a little later. At its core, a national pride. What do you think? This is a good thing or a dangerous, radical thing to be proud of the nation and the values that it upholds? Or what's your view on the nation and its cultural values as a whole?
Look, if you go to other countries, you see that they're very prideful of their country, their flag, their culture. And what's happening in our country is that a lot of times many people, especially in social media, they're really promoting um, hate in this country, and it's it's not going the right direction. I feel like as a nation, yes, we're a melting pot. There are many cultures and many religions in this country, but we are the United States of America, and we are a country, and we have a flag, and we have this this American culture and what does that mean? It means it includes everybody, everyone who lives in this country. We're all Americans, and we should be proud of this country. We should be proud of our culture, and we should promote unity instead of hate. We should promote the freedom that we have here, and that's not what we're doing.
No, you're absolutely right. And yeah, not to be ashamed of who we are or the who came before us, the founding fathers, and
Right.
things like that. Do you mind if I ask you, are you a Christian?
I am a Christian. Yes.
Okay, good. Well, yeah. Do you think that the Bible or the principles that it promotes, do you think there's any place for that in legislation, or do you think it's something we just need to put on the shelf? What are your views on that?
So I know that I'm a Christian, and there are many religions in this country.
Yeah, especially in this area.
But as you know, we are found on religious freedom, right? So I do believe in that. I'm not going to push my religion on somebody else's. I'm gonna have that respect for them, and they're gonna have that respect for me. It is all about respect, no matter what you believe in. But when you don't have that respect for each other, that becomes an issue. But so for me, when it comes to religion, you can believe whoever you want, what religion you want to believe in, but it is all about respect.
Yeah, and I guess the beliefs compared to the what you're doing, the actions, if those actions include something radical, that does not fall in the realm of religious freedom. So you know that.
Right.
So that's definitely something that can get out of control. But yeah, we value that as a country, and we should. It's what makes us so unique.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, because for me, the word Christian national has been thrown around. Christian nationalist has been thrown around by people like Joe Biden and basically Rob Reiner, people who are big donors or big voices and try to demonize, especially Protestants. And it becomes like, just because I'm a Christian and I love my country and we are a nation, and at one point this was founded on principles that do align with the Bible, whether those people were just deists who believed in a God or a higher power, or if they were full Christians, I couldn't tell you. but it almost demonizes people like that, and that's often not okay. So, any advice you have for the way that you how would you talk to people like that who do have a strong belief, but and do want to see the country go in a certain direction? Is there a place for that, or whether it's Christianity or good principles from other religions? Is that something that you can?
I think right now there's just so much negativity going on in our country. They're just spreading hate, a division, and that's something that we have to. What with my campaign, what I'm trying to bring back is positive. We have to be positive. We have to be respectful of each other. We have to um, just be able to work together, unity, and what Joe Biden right now and his leadership and his team, that's what they're trying to do to this country, just divide us. Then we know that there we live among every culture, every religion, especially in St. Paul here. I mean, there's just so many different cultures that we love and respect, and we assimilate with each other, and that's something that we need to continue to promote. But definitely, positivity is something that we don't see very often now, and that's something that we have to continue to do.
One thing I do like is that you said we are a nation, which we are, and we can find some pride in that. It's our country. It's all of our country. It's not just one particular group's. And we want to take the best of all these thoughts and intelligence and bring them into one policy. So yeah, but also maintaining good moral code as well. The last thing has to do with one of my favorite topics, and that is the Hmong community. There's a very large Hmong community here in the Northwest, in Minnesota, Wisconsin, one of the biggest ones. And just going through some of what I've been through, I'm now an adjunct member of the Hmong community, I would say. I have a little bit of an outreach. A lot of people who will watch this video are Hmong people. So not just Hmong people in this area, but all around the country. Do you have initiatives that will help support and preserve and promote Hmong culture, language, and traditions, not just in Minnesota, but all around the world?
Yes, in America, I know that every single day when I'm talking to young parents, right, I know they're losing their language, not so much their culture, but their language, and that their kids can't speak the language anymore. And it's something that it is hard to preserve when you're living in a different country where everything you use English here, basically, and we don't really use Hmong anymore. We are only using that when we're speaking to with the elders. Even with my siblings, we use English, but the culture and the language it identifies who you are. I'm very proud to be Hmong, and I'm very proud of my community. For the most part, I think that a lot of them still preserve that culture and that identity, but we have to work even harder at this time to preserve the language and the culture, because if we don't, we're going to lose it. Um, and it's that being said, it's easier said than done, right? With preserving the language and the culture piece. But I think that we have like Hmong schools that are still teaching Hmong kids how to speak the language. We have culture centers that are also still promoting the culture. And so I think that we'll be here for a long time.
Yeah, I think you're right. They are doing a good job. You guys are doing a great job. Some of the schools that are the Hmong charter schools, just like any other institution, have their issues.
Right.
Some of the older generation, which is where my heart is with the oldest generation, are leaning a little bit more conservative when it comes to their core values and things like that. What I see as an outsider looking in, what I see as a younger generation who is sort of skewing a little bit towards a little more of a radical ideology. People who don't want to learn the language, just because at that age, it is really tough to be growing up. You do not want to be different. To most people, to be Hmong means to be a little bit different, but you can be proud of it. You can channel that energy and be a little proud of that. and make it a part of your identity. So for me, when people ask me, oh, why are people not speaking Hmong? Why are my young kids not speaking Hmong? That's something as an outsider looking in, I can only point to resentments in the community, feeling like an outsider, but I'm not really sure. So I think what you've talked about has put the, you know, put a pretty good scope on those issues.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to keep the language, especially when they go to school. You could teach them they're younger, but when they start going to school, I mean, they use English mainly at school. Even young parents like myself and my siblings, they all speak English to their kids. So how do you keep that language, right?
Even in places like Thailand, they speak the majority Thai. A lot of
Right.
Hmong kids over there do not speak the Hmong language, and it's sad. It's a dying language. The Hmong diaspora is spread out, so they are so intertwined in all these other areas that it's really tough to maintain. But it seems like you have a pretty good grasp on where you would like to see the Hmong community go, and that aligns perfectly with your candidacy or your vision.
Yeah, thank you.
One last thing, would you engage how would you engage Hmong youth to engage in civic activities to just ensure that they have resources to support, succeed? There are some Hmong American politicians, a lot of Hmong people like you are going to the halls of power, and there are some Hmong politicians who I don't particularly align with, like the mayor in Oakland, California. I don't see eye to eye to her, but there are people in the halls of power who are Hmong Americans, and that's something to be proud of. How could you promote kids to get involved in local leadership, whether it's local communities, big and small? Do those start? Do those start in home? Do those start in the institutions like church or the Hmong, so-called Hmong? Where do you see that going? And how would you promote these leadership opportunities?
Well, that's a very, very good question. Like a lot of young kids, it, what's hard is that they don't know where to get involved, right? And I would say the best way to get involved is just talk to some of the local candidates. And I'm not sure about a church or institution because I don't really believe that politics should get involved in there so much. But if you're just talking about the government and things like that, it should be taught somewhere. Just learning about the basic about government, and then if you want to get involved in these type of leaderships and learn where your strength or your beliefs, and go from there. But getting involved with local candidates, getting involved with anything that will help you learn and educate yourself on government and policies will be a great start.
Right. Okay. Yeah. For me personally, and we're not related in any sense. I usually say that my last name is Xiong, but that's about it. But yeah, I think every political debate at its core is somewhat theological, based on what we believe. Like you said at the end, where our beliefs are. We have to know who we are as a people to really know what we support. So it's like if we don't have a guiding light or something inside of us that is telling us, hey, this is wrong, due to the moral order of what is good and bad, which we know inherently, then where does our real vision come from? It'll be skewed if not.
Right. And then if you don't know what your beliefs are, and you don't know, and if you don't get yourself educated, people just tell you what to do and how to feel and how to vote. And then at the end, there's going to be consequences if you don't educate yourself. And that's something that's really important, is that don't let people tell you how to think or how to vote or how to feel. You must educate yourself so that way you can control your feelings, your thoughts, and how you vote.
Yeah, do the research and saw lang tao lang oa, really have a purpose to what you're doing, a method you're at. So yeah, I want to thank you for all this time. I do want to ask you, do you have anything else particular that you'd like to share with the viewers or anything like that? Just to tell us about you or what your plan is.
Yes. So if you like more information about me, please go to my website. It's may4mn.com. That's the number 4mn.com. You can find out more information about myself. If you would like to contact me, email me with any questions, feel free to do that. You'll find all the information in my website. Also, I do have a book coming out. It's called Memoir of a Kidnapped Bride, and that should be coming out in a few weeks. And I would love to come back and talk to you about my book.
I can't wait to hear that because I really am looking forward to reading that and promoting it as well. So another one of my questions was, yeah, how can people support you? Because I support you, although I live in Florida and I work in California and I'm all over the place overseas. I do support you and what you're doing. I think you're awesome. This has been a really awesome time to talk to you. So yeah, just real quick, a bullet point list of how people can get in touch with you, website or Facebook. Is there anything on Facebook wise?
Yes. So Facebook, you can message me on Facebook, Made for Congress. Like I said, go to my website. Once again, it's made4mn.com. If you like to volunteer, if you live in St. Paul or the metro area or in Minnesota, you like to volunteer, please contact me. We're always looking for more volunteers. And if you live far away, you can't volunteer. We can always use money. Money is resources that we really need, so that way we could get our message across to all voters in Minnesota.
Thank you. Yeah, May, this has been really awesome. This is our first time actually meeting in person. You're really big delight to talk to, and this has been really awesome. So I'll be praying for your candidacy and your just the future that you have for Minnesota and our country.
Great. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Yeah.